Good evening, I'm Amanda Rosseter. New tonight at 11, the White House hails a victory over Saddam, but the threat of war still lingers. And an inside look at the next medical marvels that could change your future.
This week on The Tonight Show, Jay welcomes scheduled guests Garth Brooks, Michael J. Fox, Arsenio Hall, Dana Carvey, supermodel Stephanie Seymour, Gary Shandling, and Jimmy Carter. Plus the music of Jewel and Johnny Lang. Your local news is next.
News on Eyewitness News Night Beat.
Iraq backs down, but the threat of U.S. military strikes is far from over. And an Indiana native recalls his fight for survival on the nation's highest mountain. The Night Beat is next.
Stay tuned for Central Indiana's most honored newscast from WTHR, Channel 13, Indianapolis. With coverage you can count on, this is Channel 13 Eyewitness News Night Beat.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jack Martin.
And I'm Amanda Rosseter. Tonight, the showdown turns to a stand-down with Iraq, and it may have been a closer call than thought. Advisors tonight say that President Clinton called off not one, but two scheduled airstrikes in the last 2 days. The White House is claiming victory over Saddam, and weapons inspectors will return. But one senior official says the gun is still cocked, and in a striking statement, President Clinton today said the U.S. would actively work to oust Saddam Hussein from power. We bring you team coverage now on the Iraqi crisis. We have Campbell Brown in Washington, D.C. tonight and Mark Strassman in Kuwait City, Kuwait. We begin now with the very latest from the White House and Campbell Brown. Campbell, what can you tell us?
Good evening. While UN officials are calling it a victory for diplomacy, President Clinton was far more cautious, saying U.S. forces are on alert and will stay on alert until there are assurances Saddam Hussein will keep his word.
I'm going upstairs now to order our people back. They'll be going back on Tuesday morning.
The official word from the UN in effect seals the deal. Soon, UN weapons inspectors will be back on the ground in Iraq, and they will test the Iraqi pledge that this time inspectors really will be allowed to do their jobs. In the streets of Baghdad, people are celebrating that the bombs will not be falling, at least not imminently. Announcing an end to the showdown, President Clinton warned Iraq must keep its promise or there will be swift military action.
Until we see complete compliance, we will remain vigilant, we will keep up the pressure, we will be ready to act.
That means for now, forces in the Gulf remain on alert. And despite obvious relief today among UN officials, this is also the third showdown with Iraq this year.
I sincerely hope that there will not be a next time.
Yet there is little certainty the crisis is over. The president's only hint at a long-term solution was a pledge to support Iraqi opposition groups. Action Iraqi leaders charged was a violation of international law.
I don't think that this is acceptable, neither by the Iraqi people nor by the Arabs, and also on the international arena.
Both Iraq and the White House are declaring victory tonight, but as President Clinton knows all too well, Saddam Hussein doesn't always keep his promises. The question now is, will this time be different? Reporting from Washington, I'm Campbell Brown. Now back to you.
Campbell, what's the word tonight from leaders in Washington? Do they think that this diplomatic solution will actually work, or do they think it will take military action to get Iraq to comply?
Amanda, they're taking very much a wait-and-see approach right now. They're reluctant to really take a stance too strongly toward military action. They're not ready to rule it out yet, but they want to wait until the inspectors get into Iraq and are on the ground, and they get a sense for the type of cooperation they will be getting from the Iraqis. That could take several weeks before they get a real feel for whether or not this is all talk or the Iraqis mean it this time. They're going to give it a little time before they launch those strikes.
Okay, so another wait-and-see situation. Campbell Brown tonight in Washington. Thank you.
Former President George Bush speaks from experience when it comes to Saddam Hussein. He was at a celebrity baseball game in Houston today when he heard news of the White House's decision to delay that U.S. military strike against Iraq. Mr. Bush says he knows firsthand the kind of threat Hussein poses not just to the rest of the world, but to his own country.
He cannot take over Kuwait with impunity, but he still can do bad things, and must be made to keep his word.
Of course, Bush was the commander-in-chief when Allied forces defeated Iraq in the Gulf War 7 years ago, and he took a lot of criticism back then for not sending the troops all the way into Baghdad.
Indiana Senator Richard Lugar says he is in favor of swift military action against Iraq. This morning on NBC's Meet the Press, Lugar said nothing will change in Iraq until Saddam is taken out of power.
But I would ask those who keep measuring those risks to take a look at the risk of leaving Saddam Hussein in power and with weapons of mass destruction as he dodges and weaves any inspection, any set of letters or stipulations. And it seems to me the president really has to get that straight.
Lugar says President Clinton also needs to maintain strong international support.
This crisis has thousands of families worried tonight. Their loved ones are on duty in the Gulf on bases and ships poised for action. We went aboard the Marine amphibious carrier USS Essex back in April when they were getting ready to head out to the Gulf. That ship's commanding officer's daughter lives here in Indianapolis, and she told us today she's confident that her dad will be okay.
If we go to war, I think my dad's the best. If someone has to be out there commanding 5,000 men, he's the man for it.
Green's father is scheduled to return home to the States soon. Now, NBC's Mark Strassman has been tracking the situation from Kuwait, where it is now 7 o'clock tomorrow morning.
He joins us now from Kuwait City with the reaction there. Good morning, Mark.
Hi, Amanda. Folks here, of course, are very disappointed to some degree and even bitter. Kuwait suffered the worst of it perhaps 7 years ago when Iraq invaded this country, took it over, really subjugated them for several months. And at this point, they believe, people in Kuwait believe, that only a military action can possibly resolve it. And the decision to postpone the military attack comes as a great disappointment and even a great bitterness to a lot of the folks here, simply because they believe the U.S. has only postponed the inevitable, that 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years from now, we'll be right back where we started, with Saddam Hussein thumbing his nose at the world and the U.S. trying to figure out what to do about it.
So we're definitely talking about disappointment from the Kuwaitis this morning.
Yeah, no, there's no question about that, Amanda. I mean, in other parts of the Middle East, for instance, the Israelis and the Palestinians, depending on how you look at it, those folks are happy because they believe that if the U.S. were to have dropped the bombs on Iraq, that would upset the delicate Middle East peace process, the negotiations that have been completed and are now trying to be implemented. But here, at least, they believe that the U.S. has by not dropping the bomb, has in effect dropped the ball. That the only way that Saddam Hussein will ever end the menace that he has presented to the Middle East and to Kuwait in particular is basically by getting rid of him. And you find more than one person here who will tell you, more than one Kuwaiti here who will tell you, they want to see Saddam Hussein, if not dead, then at least removed from office. And they had hoped that this was going to be the time when push came to shove and when the United States took care of this problem once and for all. And so there is a great deal of disappointment, in fact, that this is going to go on for some time, apparently.
Okay, thank you, Mark, for that reaction. Take care over there.
Okay.
Mark Strassman reporting live tonight from Kuwait City for us. Keep it here on Channel 13 for continuing coverage on the showdown with Iraq. We will bring you up to date on all the latest developments out of the Persian Gulf tomorrow on Sunrise.
New on Eyewitness News Night Beat at 11.
They're changing the face of medicine and could improve the quality of your life. Find out if the next wonder drugs could work for you.
Our quality of life was great this weekend. Does the weather hold into the first part of the week? Come on back for the Skytrack 13 forecast and I'll tell you.
17 years ago, this Hoosiers flight over Mount McKinley took a tragic turn. Hear his story of survival.
These stories and more, new on Eyewitness News Night Beat.
From power to payload to towing, Dodge Dakota can fill some pretty big shoes. And the price? Well, you get the picture. Why would someone need a Dodge Dakota with a 175 horsepower Magnum V6 at no extra charge? We think it has something to do with their childhood. Just see the friendly Dodge dealer near you.
We can put a man on the moon. We can travel faster than the speed of sound. But when it comes to curing the ills of the human body, we have a long way to go. Or do we? What if you could see into the future of medicine? The medical marvels scientists are working on to cure illnesses that shorten our lives. Next week, Health Beat reporter Linda Moore takes you inside the country's leading drug companies for a first look at breakthrough drugs on the horizon that even your doctor may not know about. Watch next week at 5 on Channel 13 Eyewitness News.
Construction is not pretty. But that's all behind us. And we've built a whole new look, along with easier access, new stores, and a brand new food court. There's something simply better. Now showing at Castleton Square.
According to the press, you couldn't choose a better time to get a new car. So why not get the one Automobile Magazine chose over Accord and Camry for their 1998 All-Star Award for Best Family Sedan, the Intrigue. And right now, you can lease an Intrigue for only $299 a month. For more information, call toll-free 1-877-36-LEASE. Intrigue from Oldsmobile. Now, with coverage you can count on from across central Indiana, Jack Martin, Amanda Rosseter, Bill Meck's SkyTrack Forecast, and 13 Sports Jam with Dave Calabro. This is Channel 13 Eyewitness News Night Beat.
The state of Indiana could collect $4 billion if it joins 46 other states in the biggest settlement with tobacco companies so far. Now, this agreement will end lawsuits over health care costs from treating smoke-related illnesses. Indiana's Attorney General Jeff Modisett says the state has until Friday to decide whether or not if it's joining the pact.
So I think that it's a good deal for the state of Indiana. We're going to be able to get a lot of public health concessions. This will ban all outdoor advertising of cigarettes. This will get rid of most sponsorships by the tobacco industry. It prohibits targeting of kids.
Indiana could receive $50 million this month and up to $155 million a year for anti-tobacco programs.
Tonight, an inside look at some of the most promising new drugs, breakthrough compounds that could save countless lives. Health reporter Linda Moore spent 3 months visiting with the nation's top drug companies. Here's what she found in a special preview of her report, Medical Marvels.
These precious lives, the world's children, were the timeless and easy prey of polio.
In 1954, one man dared to take on a crippling and cruel disease.
Now the moment had come to determine whether the dread disease had found its conqueror in a mild but determined 40-year-old scientist named Jonas Salk.
Salk's vaccine worked. It was just one of the medical marvels from the 20th century. What advances will the next century celebrate? Which diseases will disappear? These are important questions for people like Mary Russell.
My future doesn't look real good, and I do worry about that.
Mary has osteoarthritis. The only time her joints don't ache is when she's underwater. It's getting worse. She's waiting for a wonder drug.
And then you tap it.
So is Indianapolis Colts center Jay Lewinberg. He needs one to help him beat diabetes.
There are millions of diabetics out there, and none of us have a cure.
But in labs like these across the nation, researchers are working on finding those cures, those next medical marvels.
This is just the beginning of a new era when we're going to have even more exciting, more dramatic breakthroughs for treating a variety of diseases that now plague mankind.
At Eli Lilly alone, scientists are working with 100 new compounds. Much of their work is secret, and each new drug